Hi, my name is Marie Penman and I'm a volunteer with Kirkcaldy Foodbank. I'm a trustee on the board and I also help out in frontline services for the food bank. So Kirkcaldy Foodbank was set up 5 years ago due to an increasing demand within the community for people who couldn't afford to feed themselves. A lot of this was due to benefit delays or benefit sanctions, but what we also saw was a lot of people who were coming through the doors who were actually in work, but due to zero-hour contracts, minimum pay, they weren't earning enough to feed their family. So we started up quite small scale, just with one depot, giving out food parcels to people who were hungry. And the main aim of the food bank is to ensure that nobody goes hungry within this area. In the 5 years since we started, demand has increased dramatically, far quicker and far higher than we ever would have predicted. We're now at the stage where we're giving out 900 food parcels a month. Our average monthly expenditure is hitting £8,000 a month. But following our latest board meeting, that prediction was increased to suggest that within the next 6 months, we'd be spending £12,000 a month on food. In the beginning, we relied a lot on donations of food. We asked local people to hand in food and then we just redistributed it to people who needed it. We quickly realised that wasn't enough, it wasn't sustaining demand, and so we had to start trying fundraising. Just to be clear, Kirkcaldy Foodbank is an independent food bank. It doesn't have any associations with any big organisations, it isn't supported by anyone, and it receives zero government funding, it doesn't receive any funding at all. It's run entirely by volunteers. So we have a board of trustees who are all volunteers, and we have about 110 frontline volunteers who work giving out food now and also on a voluntary basis. Any money we raise ourselves through donations. Quite hard to do because we're not professionals. So we ask schools to collect for us, we ask businesses to donate, we ask churches to collect money for us, and at the bottom line, I go and stand on the high street with a collecting tin and ask people to give us money. Sometimes we do quite well. So the local football team, Wraith Rovers, they support us and they let us go along twice a year, and I stand at the end of the football terraces and ask people to give me money, which they do. That's quite good. Some of the local supermarkets will also allow us to stand there and collect from them, but this is very piecemeal and very unreliable and quite erratic. So we don't really know from 1 month to the next how much money we're going to raise. Because demand has gone up so much recently, we're having to focus a lot more on trying to raise funds, and we're kind of struggling with that. Lots of people in the community can't really afford to support charities, but even if everybody just gave maybe a £5 a month that we knew was going to be a fixed donation every month, then we could plan ahead. We had a board meeting last week and we're at the stage of emergency planning. If demand continues the way it's going, based on our current bank funds, we reckon we've got enough to keep going for another 4 to 5 months, meaning we can get to Christmas, but maybe not much past that. So what we're trying to do is generate more of a regular income. The reason demand has increased a lot, this year especially, is because of changes to welfare policy in this country. There was a rollout in April this year, transferring people onto universal credit instead of job seekers allowance, and for whatever reason that was decided to go ahead. It's been a difficult introduction. When people get transferred to universal credit, it takes a minimum of 6 weeks for their claim to go through, and during those 6 weeks they have zero income. If they have zero income, they can't afford to feed their families, and what they're going to have to do then is come to the food bank, and that's why demand has drastically increased from April this year. It's shocked all of us, and we don't really know how we're going to keep going with that. We collect a lot of data from our clients who come in and use the food bank, so we know their situations, we know if they're working, we know if they're on benefits, we know how many children are involved. Based on recent records, we can say that over a third of our clients are children. Our intention is that children shouldn't ever have to go to school hungry. They shouldn't have to lie awake in their bed at night not being able to sleep because they're hungry, and we do whatever we can to support that. We allocate parcels to families. We make up the parcels based on what we see as a reasonably healthy diet. So we try to avoid giving up things like sweets and crisps. We try to encourage them to eat vegetables, to eat healthy cereals, pastas. We give them healthy food recipes. But really, if you're at the point of being starving, you'll eat anything. And what we've seen, and what anyone can see in a supermarket, is that junk food is cheaper than healthy food. You can get a dozen donuts in certain supermarkets for about £2. You can buy 6 apples for that, and a dozen donuts will feed more children than a couple of apples will. So we're trying to maintain it along healthy diet guidelines. We try to advise people about healthy eating, but it almost feels trivial to suggest things like that when they're starving. There are so many sad cases that you hear of people who come in who are just driven to desperation. They're always embarrassed to come and ask for help. People don't like coming to the food bank. Sometimes when I'm collecting on the high street and you get into a discussion with members of the public, and people will say, well, they're just taking a loan of you, or they're just spending their money on other things. I bet they've still got a mobile phone, or I bet they still buy cigarettes. They're just using the food bank because they don't want to spend their money on food. That's absolutely not the case. I cringe when I hear people saying that, because the people that come into us are mortified to be in that situation. They don't want to have to ask for help. They see it as a form of begging, and we're just happy to be able to stop them going hungry. Lots of different stories. We had one woman who came in on the Monday. The food bank isn't open over the weekend, it's open during the week. She came in on a Monday, and the only thing she'd had to sustain herself over the weekend was a tin of carrots, which she rationed between Friday and Monday, and she'd eaten nothing else apart from drinking water. The parents who come in and don't eat themselves because they want to try and keep the food for their children. The fact that families are having to ration what they're living on just to keep their children strong enough to go to school. It seems incredible that in 21st century Britain we're in a situation where people can't afford to feed themselves and where they're living off charity. I can't believe this exists. A lot of people say that there shouldn't be a need for food banks in this country, and that's absolutely right. There shouldn't be a need for it, because this is a wealthy country and we should be able to keep people going so that they earn enough money or get enough money and benefits to feed themselves. Sadly, that isn't the case. So there shouldn't be a need for food banks, but there absolutely is. And Kirkcaldy Foodbank, as I say, has been running for 5 years, and it gets busier every month. Every month we have a board meeting and we look at our figures, we look at how much money we've spent, we look at how much food we've given out, and it does nothing but increase every month. And it's getting to the stage where it's worrying. What do we decide to do? Do we decide to give people half rations? Do we cut back on the food we give them? Do we limit the amount of visits they have? Do we turn people away? But how can you do that? How can you turn people away and know that they're going home to nothing in their cupboards and being starving? It's an awful situation. So we keep going. We keep trying to raise money. We keep trying to collect food. Right now, it's quite a lot of schools are doing harvest festivals. Quite a lot of churches do it, and so they collect actual food donations, and that's great because it gives us a little boost, and it means we don't have to spend as much on our shopping. But literally what we do now is we go to one of the major supermarkets, we do an online order, and we spend thousands of pounds a week, and the order gets delivered by the home delivery service. I'm proud of Kirkcaldy Foodbank. I'm proud of the work that it does. I wish it didn't have to do that work. I wish there was another way. I wish people weren't going hungry. I wish children weren't crying because they can't sleep at night because they've not had anything to eat all day. But sadly, those are the facts. That's what's happened. And all we can do is try and fill a gap and try and fill their stomachs. And we're going to keep trying that. Thanks.